got it started. Okay. One of the things I talked about last week was viewfinders and sketching
Mine
out.
came in.
Good. Well, you know, again, I do as I say, not as I do. Because I sit down and I want to paint, and it's like, I don't want to sketch it. I just want to paint this. And so occasionally, if you do, at least sketch here. So what I did here, or what I'm going to do here is just kind of save the space where the flower is. I don't want it exactly perfectly round, so it's kind of oblong, and then there's this other one to the side. But then I have this dark behind it that travels around and comes back up in here. And do you see what I'm talking about? All this right in here?
Yeah.
So what I did when I painted the hydrangeas this weekend is I kind of just knew where they were going to be, and I wanted to make sure I saved that area for that. I didn't want to put too much dark there, at least the dark that I was going to put in the foliage,
Right.
because it was going to be harder to cover up because I was painting wet on wet. But painting wet on wet's fine if you don't overdo it. Now today I added transparent red oxide and transparent brown oxide and transparent yellow oxide and burnt and ultramarine blue, so that I could get a really dark. So I didn't have that this weekend when I was painting, but just ultramarine blue and the transparent blue oxide, when I say blue, brown, make a really good dark, just those two together. So it's, I mean, if you have a, you might not have transparent brown oxide, but you probably have burnt umber. Burnt umber is a dark brown. So that's going to give you a really dark. Now I'm going to just put it right there. That's it right there.
All right, what did you mix? Transparent brown oxide and what?
And ultramarine blue.
Ultramarine blue.
Now if I want it browner than that, then I can add more.
Yeah.
But see, this is that plastic, and I can just wipe it off. I love that stuff. Okay, so that's very blue. And so I'm looking at that, which I don't think I'm going to mind as a dark underpainting because I have blue hydrangeas that I'm going to paint with. But I did want the darker under, a darker color than what I was getting last weekend. So I'm just going to let's see how dark that is, almost black. But that's all right. I'm just going to scrub in.
I like that it's not
Yeah.
a purple. Like
Right.
we're using purples for a lot
Yeah.
for dark, and I like having.
In this one, yeah, you.
Oh,
Yeah.
but yeah, but
Right.
vary your colors just
Right.
because we did it in one, yeah. And see, see where that leaf is. I'm kind of leaving. So I think of it as negative space. Don't even think about it of, oh, this is a beauty. There's an actual flower there, or there's a leaf there. Some of I'm going to blur a little bit of hydrangea in there because I want it to expand the canvas. And so if it gets to the point where I can't get it to move, you can either add more paint, which I would recommend first before you add the mineral spirits. I didn't get the liquid out. I will show you a little bit of that though. Or, yeah, had to be the first one I laid my hands on. Liquid impasto is what I like to take out in the field because it's a tube and not a bottle. It's either that or that Gamlin product that's very similar. But if I put a tiny bit of that in my brush, see, it becomes more transparent, and the paint, see how the paint will move around a little bit better, but it can give you a more transparent feel. So I feel like, okay, that's really dark there. I want to do that. And one of the things about that I've learned about some composition is you want the corners of your painting to be different. And I don't think I've ever mentioned that. I don't remember who I learned that from, but just variety is good. And so that's really dark there. So I'm going to pick up a little ultramarine and the brown, and I'm just going to hit that area a little thicker with the paint. Now, when it's really thicker, it's going, in order to paint over it what you have to paint over with has to be oilier. It's thick over lean, fat over lean is the term. All right, so that's enough for the basic underpainting. And when I was painting this weekend, I started laying in the little petals, and I realized, oh, that's stupid. So I started, okay, look, where's the curve, where's the darks in my hydrangea? Okay, I have some darks here, here, across here, and here. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to look at my darkest blue that I had on my palette, and it was this. So I just started laying in. Now that's a little turquoisey right now, but it'll go away, sort of. Or I might keep it. So I'm just putting in blocks of color where I see the value. Then I'm going to go with the purpley one. Then the rest is very similar in color. So I'm just going to block it all in, and that looks kind of like a hot mess. That's okay. This is the ugly stage. You know, everybody has an ugly stage, and you don't have to scrub. I mean, you could do dabs if you want to. I'm just trying to cover the canvas. And I'm going to put a little bit of that out here for this flower, a little bit over here. I'm just getting rid of some of the white of the canvas. Doesn't that look like hydrangeas to y'all? Not at all. I know, it's awful. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the foliage before I work on the hydrangeas, because the foliage is behind the hydrangeas. So I'm going to pick up this garish green that's on my palette, and I'm going to tone it down. Actually, I wanted to tone it down with a little yellow oxide and see how that did. That's actually not bad. Okay, so I'm going to test it here. All right, that's way too dark. So I know the yellow oxide I must brighten it up a little bit. Got to add some yellow, because it's pretty bright. You know, that's pretty close. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I have this beautiful green that's loaded on my palette, and I'm just going to look for it in my background. I like that shape, but I don't really want it that focused. So I'm going to blur it out a little bit. That's a little bright for there, so, you know, little finger painting. And I'm not overly concerned that I got all the foliage right. I just want it to read like there's foliage here. But see how it even goes over the dark? A little here, and just kind of little speckly bits. And there's nice bright there, so I'm going to reload my brush. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit more of the green, the darker green that was there, and I'm just going to kind of fill in dapples behind it, blurring what I've got, just to give a feel of other greenery. I want a little more turquoise in there. Anybody know why I added a little more turquoise in there?
To cool it and push it back.
Very good. And even though I don't really see it, I want. Now, one thing, be careful of, and as I backed up, I saw that I'm kind of creating a halo around my flowers, and so I want this green to come all the way up to the flower, maybe into the flower, and not stop. See how that breaks up that line?
Yeah.
You visually see the dark going around it, but you don't want to see a continual dark. Right. Your brain will connect that. So I'm going to put a little bit in here just to break up some of this. It's got to be darker, because It's got to be darker because that's in the shadows, so I didn't make that dark enough. What is that quote that we've been working on?
Not the latest.
the
dark
lightest,
is darker
yeah.
than the latest.
Yep.
Light? Glad they could
Mhm.
read it. Darkest light.
It's right here. The
lightest
lightest dark is darker than the darkest light. So we could overthink that all day long. But anyway, just break it up so you don't have this halo look. And so now I'm all right with that for the leaves for now. I'm going to come back with the flower, and then we'll see if it's even needed. So luckily I have some beautiful blues that are kind of a hydrangea blue. And I'm gonna, this one is King's Blue Deep, and very, very much of a hydrangea color.
It is, yeah.
And but I want to start with the darker petals out here. It's kind of where the turquoise is, and I didn't have the ultramarine with me last week, and that's where I really needed that, because that's was kind of the purpley blue tone undertone, and it's in the shadows, so it's going to be darker. So I'm just kind of looking where I put that shadow color, and I'm just laying in bits of color here and there. And there's a little bit back here that can be just blurred, and that can be blurred over here. Starting to take shape. Again, no mineral spirits, just wipe your brush off, pick up another color, and that was the one I just mentioned a minute ago, and then I go on top of that. And I know hydrangeas have little petals that are made of four, but you can't tell. You just dab in, you're just looking for the lights a little lighter than what I just did. And when you don't worry about, oh, well, that has a white center and that has all these,
That's what I have to fight.
don't. Back away. And that again, when you look at things from a distance, squint your eyes. I do that more now when I paint than I ever did, and I never really understood why until I started doing that, and then, oh my word, things just come into view that didn't before. So
Right.
see how I'm just laying, I kind of double loaded my brush with some blue and white, and
Because from a distance, squinting, that has a lot of weights to that file,
Mhm.
really. Yeah. But that makes
And you're blurring the edges, breaking
Uh-huh.
up that dark too. It's just beautiful.
but now your foliage is starting to make sense. And I'm just laying the brush down back here. It'll even be less purposeful, but just you want a little. You don't want it all the same. Okay, so I want it sort of rounded. I need a little more dark up in here. My eyes are right in here. And ultramarine blue with just a little white also makes another pretty variation of a color that's in this flower. So don't forget to just add some white to the ultramarine and mix it a little bit more than that. And it gives a beautiful color. And I'm not getting exactly right, but that's okay. You're getting, kind of the feel. I want a little more fullness right here. And I'm almost feeling when I look at this again that it's almost like three blossoms, and I've done it in two.
You almost
You
have
know,
three, Terry. You really
so-
do when you're this far back.
So does it look like three?
Yeah.
It does.
Okay, well, I'm going to extend up this section right here, and I can do that because what's behind it
There you go.
Right.
isn't thick.
Right.
Yeah. There you
I
go.
can paint wet on wet, and I was avoiding the boob look
Yeah.
because that's what it looked like. When I backed up, I was going, nope, can't do that. All right, so anyway, I'm going to just pick up a little bit more of, I'm adding a little white to some of that lighter color, and I want to lay in some lights, but I don't want to overdo it. So change the direction of your brush, kind of mimic the way the
Petals.
flowers, yeah, and then back
Oh,
away.
that's pretty.
Well, looks good.
All right, now see I haven't even touched this down here, so I have some on my brush, so I'm just gonna put a little right there. And I want a little more dark up under here. Ooh, that's real dark. I didn't put much. And just cutting in and emphasizing just a little bit. Kind of.
Looks good because there are shadows in that blue. In the flower.
And then I'll put a touch in here just to break up. Okay.
Well, looks really good.
What do you think?
Yes.
Oh, it's really
Yes.
pretty.
All right, so we will stop the video and